Hey. Well, good evening again, everyone out there in the Shake Up with Dr. Kit's land. So glad to have you on with us this evening. Sorry, we're running just a little bit late. You know, technologies just seem to be uncooperative at the most unreasonable time. And so we're so glad that you're still going to hang in there with us. We're still here. So if you thought we weren't going to be here, just click that button and just come on right back. You know, technology has not been friendly uh, to us this day, but we're back. We're here. And hey, now that I've told you why we're running just a little bit late, we're glad to be here. Glad to have you. And so therefore, just hang in there with us, and we're going to get the show started. This is the Shake Up, of course, with Dr. Kit. We're on the air every Monday evening at 6 p.m. Central Time, and we are bringing the Shake Up. The Shake Up is we don't change anything. We just shake some things up because the good stuff settles down at the bottom for over a week, and we just bring an opportunity for you to join us in the Shake Up. Like, follow, share, and subscribe. We depend on you. You know, we don't have no major sponsors or anything like that, you know, so we're just out here by faith, and the Lord has been good to us. So just like, share, follow, and subscribe, and make sure you tell all your folks. And if you would like to be a part of this show, just email my office at drkitspeaks@gmail.com to be considered for a future person on this show, and you will be contacted and you will be brought onto the show. And the reason I'm so sure you'll be brought on is because we're not looking for big celebrity names. We think that celebrities got it all going and they're the only ones that's got something to share. No, we want to hear from you, man on the street, woman on the street, just man and woman anywhere. You have a story to tell. If you got a story to tell, and it's an important story, and we want to make sure that your voice is heard. All right, with that said, listen, let me just tell you this. We're just back off of a very successful day down in Birmingham, where we went to, my wife and I went down there to the Black Men's Mental Health Conference. It was so good. I got to talk the people in the scene if they can bring that here to Huntsville at some point, because I think it would work out really, really well. Okay, and so tonight we have a guest. She has been on before, and she was really good when she was here before. She had a lot of really good things to talk about, you know, things that really allow us to think, that taps into the core of humanity based on the kind of work she does and the kind of person she is. So at this time, I'd like to bring on my guest. And here she is,
Hello.
Dr. Dr.
Yes.
Nicole.
Yes.
How are
Yes.
you, Doc? How are you? How are you? Oh man, it's so good
I'm
to see
good.
you. So good to see you. Off camera, you told me you're just rushing to get here. Okay, you getting out of work, and you got some family things you got to take care of your family and stuff like that. And here you are on this show here. You know,
Yes. Yes.
you know.
Yeah, definitely. It's an
Yeah.
honor. Thank you for having me here again.
All
And
right.
hopefully, this can bless somebody. Excuse my voice. I pray I don't start coughing, but I'm going to put that out there. I am trying to recover from something that's gotten me a little bit of a dry cough, but
Mm,
hopefully, God will help that not to happen on the
yes.
podcast.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but you know, perfection is not what we're looking for. We're just looking for excellence, and I know that we're going to
Yeah.
get that here with you tonight. Okay, so listen, the last time you were on, you know, you talked more about the kind of a work that you do and how you impact families because of the work that you do. But now you told me that you know God's been talking to you about something. You know how it is when God arrested Moses up on the mountain and said, Moses. He said, "Who are you, Lord?" He said, "I got a job for you." Dr. Nicole, I got a job
Yeah.
for you. Okay, finish that off for me. Dr. Nicole, I got a job for you. Finish that off for me. Then we're
Yeah.
gonna
Well,
move
my
right. We're gonna
reply
move right into
to
it.
my reply to God was,
Mm,
"What in the world? Not
yeah.
I." Um, so this is the thing. in July of last year, I've been really on a journey of what am I supposed to be doing in my life at that moment. And I was looking at visually where I was at and the things that I had lined up, known factors in my life. I have two young girls, and I'm a single mom, and I'm a breast cancer survivor. So my life has changed considerably. And in light of that, I was really focused on how to build a legacy and how to, um, in essence, I guess, work smarter, in life,
Mhm.
considering some of the challenges that I'm facing, which a lot of it is time. Um, I'm constantly rushing here, rushing there, going here and going there. So, um, in that path in July of trying to figure out what is my purpose, God given purpose, um, and where God wants me to go, I made some moves and some steps, and I really believe it was before God told me to move, and I think it was out of desperation and wanting to get started and build this legacy.
Mhm. Yeah.
So this year, when nothing really solid really came out of what I was trying to tangibly do,
Mhm. Yeah.
God said, I want you to serve. And for me, I've always had this desire, especially after completing radiation, because those that don't know, I was diagnosed in October 2019 with triple negative breast cancer. And I
Can
had
you
to
tell them
go,
what that means for those who may not know what triple negative
yeah,
means?
so breast cancer in itself, I had
Mhm.
invasive ductal carcinoma. So, what that means is that I had a mass in my breast that unfortunately invaded outside of the lobules inside of the breast tissue. And so that's where the invasive ductal carcinoma comes from. But there's certain classes of breast cancer, and one is triple negative. Triple negative means that this type of cancer unfortunately does not respond to estrogen,
Mm.
which some people who have breast cancer, they may have estrogen positive breast cancer, which means that their cancer responds to estrogen hormone. There is another subset that is either progesterone positive, which means that their breast cancer cells, the cancer cells responds to progesterone. And then there's some that responds to both estrogen and progesterone. Um, Mine does not respond to any of that.
Mm. Mm.
So it's almost kind of like a horrible rogue cell that does its own thing. It doesn't need hormones to thrive and to replicate and grow. And it doesn't need a certain protein, which usually HER2 breast cancer has that
Mm.
needs that. And so it doesn't respond to a lot of treatments. And now there's some advancement when it comes to certain treatment therapies that I didn't have. And one is Keytruda. But for me, I had to go through 5 months of chemo, and that was hard. And after that, I had to have surgery, and I elected to have a double mastectomy, um, because unfortunately, with triple negative breast cancer, it has a very high mortality rate and reoccurrence rate. And I did not want to, God forbid, have to go through the same nightmare again, So I was like, just remove all breast tissue. So that's what I decided upon. And I find that most women, not all, in this subset of community of triple negative, they do that, do have a double mastectomy. And so um, after that, I went through radiation. And so radiation, it was about 28 treatments, I think 32. They continued it a little longer, of every day, Monday through Friday, of radiation. And
Mm.
that was a lot. I burned horribly.
Mm.
And I wasn't prepared. And I think that's the biggest thing, unfortunately. It's like going through it for me, even from the beginning of getting the diagnosis, I really was not prepared for the disease or the diagnosis that I received. No one really took the time when I received my diagnosis to sit me down, one, and explain what it is that I had. I received a phone call and I was at home. I'm a stay-at-home mom at the time. I'm a veterinarian. That's my career. But I became a stay-at-home mom to raise kids. And when I was at home, I received a phone call and I was holding at the time my Timothy. And also I had my 3-year-old at my hip. So it was a very hard blow, to say the slightest. It was a hard blow because I literally thought my whole wind in my body got knocked out when I received that phone call. And I was told I had triple negative, but no guidance, none, no guidance. I was told I had to find a breast surgeon. I didn't know where to do that. So I was like, well, let me Google.
No recommendation. No
recommendation.
Wow.
I was told that it's triple negative to be exact. And I didn't know what that was. I thought it was a positive thing. Never hearing triple negative before in my life. I thought, well, it's negative 3 times. So maybe that's a good thing. And unfortunately, I Googled and I was even more in the state of fear. I felt as if exactly I asked God, Lord, am I going to die? And so it was a hard place to be in. And so I go through that history because I did not have, unfortunately, a support medically, from my medical professionals at that time, to help guide me, take my hand, if you will, and say, okay, let me help you understand and digest this information and go to the next step. But the glory and the goodness of God, as God has placed in my life a good friend of mine whose sister is a breast surgeon. And I didn't know that at the time. So when I told her, the Lord told me to call her because, again, I was home. Usually everybody's working, but I know she does remote telemedicine health for her job. I said, hey, I need help. I am diagnosed with this and I have to find a breast surgeon. And her sister, she said, yeah, my sister's a breast surgeon and let me email her because she was on the plane to Dubai.
Wow.
And so to try to speed this up, her sister, even though she was on the plane to Dubai, she was able to check her email back her sister and let her know, I have this colleague that I used to go to school with. She practices in Orlando where I'm at. And here's her number, personal number. Here's her contact information. Call her. She can help guide you. And that's how everything began in motion. And I'm thankful for the favor of God on my life because, if God didn't place and order my steps, I don't know where I would be, and I don't know how much of a delay in treatment I would have had. So I say this, and it's important, is that the Lord this year has told me that I know that you want to build a legacy, but I want you to focus your attention on serving. I want you to serve. And for me, he literally told me, I want you to start a ministry. So I started a ministry called Hope for Light. And that ministry is very dear to my heart because I am hopeful that it can help build community for people who, like myself, didn't really get that through cancer treatment, and a guide, someone to help them, in essence, have support, pray with them, and also, if need be, try to find resources in whatever area they may have, and also to help empower and educate, because this is something that I realized is that even going through my cancer treatment, I was almost given the wrong chemo. The same chemo that almost killed me, and the doctor changed and told me not to have it. if it wasn't for God instilling in me to be an advocate for myself and checking the medications before they administered it, I would not still be here to this day. Um, and I had to really fight, literally, as calmly as I could, to tell them, which was a nurse and I think a nurse practitioner, and I can't think of it right now. She wasn't the doctor, but she was under the doctor. But she was on the floor of the chemo ward. But they were very adamant to tell me that I'm mistaken, that I'm wrong, that this is the chemo you're supposed to get, this is the dose. And it was completely wrong. My doctor and my oncologist changed those orders. And it became very combative to where they started to make me feel as if I'm being an annoyance, I'm being combative, and like, how dare I? But I had to calmly stay my ground and say, do not pump anything into my veins, into my body, until you check my doctor's medical notes. Go into his notes. I don't care what the screen is telling you, go into his notes. And it was at that moment that they did that. And when they came back, she said, oh, yeah, it did change. I never got an
Really?
apology.
Just like that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Like, oh, no big deal. Like, oh, yeah, you're right. But I say this, and I adamantly say this, because it happens. Not only did that happen to me, my blood work was wrong. I didn't receive chemo for a month because I was told that my white count was too low, but the machine that they were using was not working right. So every time they sent me home, I didn't receive treatment, and I was supposed to get chemo every week. So can you imagine, if that's the only drug at the time that can kill your cancer? That's what they say. I can't get it. Not because of my body, because of machine error. But I knew that that was wrong, because medically it didn't make sense. It didn't add up for me to be so low so fast and I not be in the hospital. So that's another thing I kept kind of having to push and push and push. And so advocacy is so important. Mistakes happen. People are human, even though they have a doctor by their name. They are not God. They're not perfect. If you don't know your medication, you don't know what you're supposed to get, the frequency of what you're supposed to get, you are at risk, tremendously at risk, to be either given the wrong medication, not giving medication, improperly given the wrong dose of medication, and it happens. So that's where the inequality is. And so pointing back to this ministry that God told me to start, that's a part I really am trying to have subsets of conversations, if you will, virtually, including virtually, to talk about these things and bring doctors in and try to help empower and educate, which prayerfully, May 18th, one of the topics that I'm planning to do with Hope for Light and also a church here locally is to have a conversation about navigating healthcare and healthcare inequalities and how to be an advocate for yourself. And so, definitely things like this needs to be talked about.
Yeah. I think like you're a good example. If you did not know enough to advocate for yourself, you said, listen, I wouldn't be here right now. And so just knowing the system out there, what's available, and the mix of what's available in order to get you where you need to get to, because a lot of things may be out there, but the merger of certain things may not work in your favor. So you need to know how to make that happen. And if you don't know how to have, you need to know how to have the right people on your side, a member of your team. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, because sometimes what I find is that, and it's uncomfortable for me too. One of the things, I know you mentioned mental health, a conference you did for men, but that's so important across the board. And so, the whole body is connected. You can't have a healthy body if your mind is not right.
Mhm.
And for me, I truly feel you cannot have a healthy mind and a healthy body if spiritually you're not connected and right.
Mhm.
So for me, especially with this ministry, I'm trying to really look at the whole holistic approach of mind, body, and spirit, and merging it and looking at the whole person. Because what I found going through my cancer journey is that they want to put you in little boxes,
Mhm.
you know?
Easy to
Oh,
find when you're in the box, huh?
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
but no one talks to each other
yeah,
outside these boxes, right?
right.
So it's like, oh, you have a cough, go see your cardiologist, go see your pulmonologist, oh, you have this. And they're really quick, unfortunately. I'm not against medication, but they're very quick to start you right off the bat and put you on medication, especially when you start to voice how you're feeling. Then they start to be like, oh, you're anxious, you have anxiety, oh, maybe you're depressed. I'll give you something to help you to sleep. It also helps you with your mood. And you have to watch that because you don't want to get dependent on pills,
Right.
um, without tackling sometimes the root cause
Mhm. Mhm.
of what's really going on,
Mhm.
you know? And that's why I say point it back to advocacy. And so you have to be empowered and enlightened, have to have faith, stand on God's word, um, don't waver from it, and get to a point where you're like, okay, God, you're the captain. You're not the co pilot, you're the captain. So where are we going? And so, like, when I was told to start this ministry, I was like, Jesus. um, it's a little bit,
Yeah,
it's
listen,
uncharted
can I
waters.
can I let me just interrupt you for a minute. Let's go back to, but I'm just kind of interested to hear. Let me give you some of this.
Hmm.
Let me give you some of that. You might have anxiety, you might be depressed. But before they tell you that, did they ever do like with you? Did they do like a cursory test, to
Hmm.
see where you stand on a chart for anxiety or a chart for depression? It's just they didn't do that.
No,
Okay.
not at all. And I think that's the thing is that, for me, I'm talking
Yeah.
about from my experience,
Hmm.
I didn't get that. I got, at the time I was going through a divorce at the same time of my treatment.
Right.
My radiation right after my double mastectomy, I ended up going through a divorce. And it was hard. Now, who would not be anxious and have some sleeping issues going through cancer and divorce at the same time, right?
All those major losses, right?
Right. There's a
Yeah.
huge grief in all of it,
Yes.
right? And then at the same token, I'm trying to fight for my life. And then on top of it, I also am trying to salvage the crumbles of a marriage, right? With children, small children.
Hmm.
So no one took the time to really direct me, not
Hmm.
even to a counselor. Like I sought out, as you know, counseling on my own.
Hmm.
Um, but no one did not take the time out to really direct me. And when I asked, they had one counselor in the chemo ward. Now, check this out. She was like, oh, you can do counseling sessions, when you're here for chemo. Not a good idea. Um, because talking about those things, you want to keep your state. There's a reason God said, peace I freely give to you.
Hmm.
He wants us to stay in peace. And so when you're getting chemo, there psychologically, mentally, you need to ground yourself and you need to really take charge of your mind because you're already in a state of feeling like you're in the injection chair. That's how I felt. I felt like I was getting lethally injected when I sat in this chair. And so talking about my issues and things like that of marriage and stuff and all that, it just was not good in that type of setting. but that's what I was offered. And I hope that that never happens for anybody and that can change, because I do believe and feel that there should be something in place with a nurse care navigator and a counselor to really guide from the very diagnosis, that first day in that room with you, and help guide you through, because all you're hearing is want, 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 want. You're just figuring out like, "Ooh, I have cancer. Am I going to die?" So everything someone is saying is not really processing, not even really good for me. So if I had that counselor or somebody to actually kind of check in with me, you know, not when I'm getting chemo, um, I think that would have been helpful, to really understand what I'm going through and if I do need medicine or not. Because I never forget, a nurse care navigator called me on my lunch break. Um, no, it wasn't it was a counselor, called me on my lunch break. And I eat my lunch in my car because of COVID, you know. And I'm doing this video conference. He said, "Turn on your camera." And he wanted me to give me my location, like my exact location, side streets, where am I at? That was the first thing. And it alarmed me. And I was like, "Oh, I'm at work, but where exactly?" And I didn't understand why he needed that, but he said, "Well, I'm just trying to see if I need to call back up just in case, because I was reading through your chart and just, you know, just wondering, how are you doing and are you coping?" At this time, I am like 10 months out of radiation. It's like, okay, now you all are following up with me. Um, but I felt like it was almost comical thinking back on it, because
Mm.
he was so quick to want to put me on medication because of like how in the world, and he asked me, how do I cope? And the only response I had, which is true, is to God alone. To God alone is how I cope. And he asked me a few other questions. What's my community? Do I have a community? And thank God I do. My family. But it was one of these things of, he didn't have anything else to say, but okay then. All right. But it took so long for someone to check in, right? And the first thing, like I said, in between, they wanted to put, even when I was getting chemo, "Oh, I can put something in your IV to help you relax and go to sleep while you're getting chemo." No, thank you. I want to be coherent, because if I have a reaction like I did last time and I was sedated, kind of,
Right.
how would I have been able to respond to that? I had
Mhm.
to call out saying, "Help me."
Mhm. Mhm.
And if
So,
I'm sedated, how can I do that?
right, right. So, so you went through all of that, and then God is calling you to do something that would. How would God? What God is calling you to do? How will that help you to help others not to have to go down a similar road
Mhm.
like that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And honestly, I'm still searching God for all of those answers right to that. But what I do know is that God has blessed me. I said, "Okay, God, you want me to start this ministry? Line everything up. Line it up, oh
Mm.
God. Line it
Okay.
up. Put the people in place, line it up." And he has. He's shown me that. So I have different oncologists, PCPs, lifestyle medicine doctors, and things like that, that have been overly gracious, and nurses to want to partner and want to help team up and be in these panels of discussion to talk about different things. So, like I said, I'm in May. I plan to have two podcasts, kind of, if you will, things on Zoom. It's going to be like a hybrid. One is going to be on the 4th, actually, this Saturday, about estate planning, because that's something that I did not know much of, or about. And I was constantly asked, do I have a living will and testament? Do I have a healthcare surrogate? Do I have a durable power of attorney? And the last thing I wanted to think about was my death. when I'm trying to live, right? So I focused out, like I was like, I can't even focus on that right now because again, I was going through the divorce on top of trying to live. Uh, so I
And
see
raise your two children at the same time.
and raise my
You
two,
know,
yes,
so
two
I was just
small
wondering,
kids.
what like estate planning, it's
Hmm.
all those hardcore structure things, but
Hmm.
then your availability to your children becomes
Hmm.
very paramount because they are as dependent as they are young children right now. And no matter how old they are,
Hmm.
no parent want to die leaving young children, to
Yeah.
go through life with the uncertainty of the outcome or the possibility of some outcomes.
Right. Yeah. Which is why I said, God was like, maybe that will be the first conversation to have. Put that out there, free access. Because this is the
Mhm.
thing, to be honest,
Yeah.
everybody's trying to get money for something.
Mm.
Um, and if you don't have the money, you don't have the resources, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have a foot. And so for me, estate planning was not something that, or trust or anything like that, that was passed down to my family at all on both sides. It's not something that was even talked about. So for me, I didn't understand it. And honestly, I went in a panic to Office Depot and got some documents that's there on a living will, um, and thought that that would suffice. But legally, depending on the state, you have to check to see how that works, right? But then, too, I have small kids and I have to think about their needs. And God forbid something happens to me, what happens to them? And and it's real. I didn't want to think about it at the time, but it's real. Like nothing, we're not promised here on this earth. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
um, I said, okay, let me have this conversation at least to provide free access to a lawyer that has been gracious to say he's going to utilize some of his time to help answer questions and guide people and
On
knowledge,
your podcast that's coming up.
yeah, on the
Oh,
4th.
really? Okay,
Hmm. Yeah, on the 4th to
that's
guide
good.
people, yes, to understand what is estate planning, what's some of the documents that's in that commonly and how to go about doing it. Um, because again, knowledge is power. And
Mm.
so with my ministry, that's the goal is whatever information I'm still building the website. If you want to go to it, it's www.hopeforlight.org. Um, I'm still building the website, but I plan to have different things on there from nutrition. I started a yoga class every other week. The first class was this past Sunday with a certified yoga instructor who is a bright light. She's young, but she's trained and she has a lot of knowledge and passion for what she does. And I know for me, yoga helped a lot. When I was going through chemo, it helped me to relax, refocus, watch my breathing, calm my stress level down. Um, and so we want to offer that through my ministry online every other Sunday. So
Mm.
again, not this coming Sunday, but the Sunday following. So you can definitely follow, either go to the website and also the Facebook page, Hope for Light Facebook page, and that will sometimes guide you definitely to different events. Um, and the other thing is, like I said, just trying to target different things from nutrition and diet to thinking about your mental health and emotional health, um, and how that affects your overall life. You can't get better physically if mentally you're not thriving.
Mm.
You're
So
not going to take your medications and stuff.
let me
Hmm.
ask you, and you might be thinking about doing this. Maybe
Hmm.
I'm hoping you're thinking about doing it. That is, when you get a diagnosis of cancer,
Hmm.
I'm thinking that at that point, your whole mental health attitude shifts. From from you're dealing with mortality and morbidity at that time.
Yeah.
You know, so so just thinking about that, did you get a kind of a fix on what your mental health was like when you heard, hello, you
Mhm.
got triple negative, you didn't know, have a clue what it was, and this is what you got to do. I mean, what happened to you in terms of your mental stability? Because a lot of times people think that mental health is
Mhm.
mental illness, and there is a huge difference between, they're on the separate end of the continuum, as a matter of fact.
Mhm.
Mental health, it goes along the continuum. So what happened to you at that point? Because estate planning is related to that in my
Mhm.
mind.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of these things, honestly, I felt the best way I can describe it. It
Yeah.
literally felt like somebody punched me in my throat and my stomach at the same time. That's just the best
Mm.
way I can describe it. Hard. Like all the
Mm.
wind got knocked out.
Yeah.
Um, and I was in utter shock and I was numb and then fear. And then once fear came, then despair tried to seep in because I was looking down at my kids. And like I said, at the time, I had babies. And I was alone. I didn't have anybody
Hmm.
there physically with me, right? And my mom was working. I couldn't call her. I did not want to leave a voicemail. There ain't nothing to leave. Um, and my aunt, Rhonda, my mom's sister, the Lord said, call two people. I called my aunt, who is strong in the faith, and she rallied up the people that was around her and they prayed for me. She rallied up my family that prayed for me. So in that intercessory prayer is powerful. That's our power is prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Because when
Yeah.
I couldn't pray for myself because
Yeah.
being numb
Mm.
and in
Yeah.
fear of dying, I had prayers, incense going up. And I do mean going up. And my family rallied, and I do mean rallied behind me in prayer. And I think at that moment, that caused that nasty devil to flee from making me crumble. And I just kept leaning on that. Now, granted,
Mm.
there's days where, because like I said, I was going through a divorce. Can't imagine how that crazy, you know, it's like a roller coaster that I wanted off, and then with chemo, you have highs and you have lows, and it's just constant. Like sometimes it could be this, and then, and
So let me
right.
ask you. So you're talking about the highs and the lows.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk to people about the highs and the lows, one of the first things I think a lot of people will think about is like, well, you must be bipolar. You're manic depressive,
Mm-hmm.
but it's that's not what it is, though. So what's your experience of being high and then going into the low? You never know how low the low is going to be, what's going to
Right.
cause it there. You don't know how long the low is going to
Mm-hmm.
be, or the high for that matter.
Yeah. And so that's where I say, for me,
Yeah.
that doctor asked me, how do I cope? And
Hmm.
it was to God alone. I really felt like in my life, and the Lord is still working on me. Um, I see God's power for the first time in my life. You hear it, you read it, it's like you don't connect to it. But going through cancer, I connected because I had nothing else to rely on, not anything. I didn't have a marriage, I didn't have that support from my husband. The doctors were doing all kind of aloof stuff to where, like I said again, I was almost getting the wrong chemo. I had a bad reaction to chemo that almost took my life. I didn't get chemo for a month because of faulty machinery. So I felt like I was out there in the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean in the night with no life preserver, no raft, no life vest. I was just coasting and not knowing what was going to kill me.
Mm.
Is it going to be the cancer, or is it going to be the treatment, or is it going to be the stress? You know what I'm saying? So it was a horrible place. And that's where I saw God's power. because God says, surrender, Nicole. Surrender. And I never fully understood what that meant. And it's a hard thing to do in the flesh because you have to give up all control. And you have to say, my mom says it all the time, and it used to irritate me. I'm being honest, if God's will, we would do so and so. And I'm like, yes, Mom, God's will, but it's true. I realized that I was not putting my life and my plans in the hands of God and saying, God, what's your will? Lead my day as you see fit. Help guide me as you see fit. And I had to completely surrender. And even he asked me, I have to surrender my children because I was thinking, Lord, I need to live to care for them. And I still feel that way sometimes. I'm being honest. I got to live, Lord, to take care of my girls. I got to raise my girls, God. But God was saying, wait a minute. Who do they belong to? Is it you?
Right.
Or is it me? And it was hard. And so when I was getting my double mastectomy, literally, I had to prep myself. It was COVID. So nobody can come with you. I was alone.
Wow.
And they told me I had to go in a room by myself in the bathroom, and I had to take the chlorhexidine wipes and prep myself for surgery and everything. And while I was washing, like wiping myself, tears started coming down my eyes as I'm looking in this mirror at my own reflection. And at the worst state, I dropped a lot of weight with chemo. I was 114 pounds by the end of chemo. And thank God I had some baby weight because I lost a lot of weight. And I was frail. I had no hair, no eyebrows, no nothing, completely stripped. And I'm looking in this mirror at a person I did not know. But I said, Lord, I hear you. I surrender. And I completely started surrendering everything out loud to where the nurse was knocking, you okay in there? You okay? And I was not even responding because I knew at that moment before my surgery, I had to. Because even then, I was almost not going to get my surgery because my white count was so low. It was so low, dangerously low. They didn't want to do surgery. And I had to spend a week in the hospital there trying to get my white count up in order to have surgery. And I said, okay, God, I can live, I can die. But it's in your hands.
Sound like Job. Job, just by saying that, I'm just wondering, that Job lost so much.
Yeah.
But then look how much God restored him. What's your road to restoration like? Are you on that road to restoration? And what does it look like? Because you can, you can question God when it's not going right, but then you start to praise him when it is going right. But what I heard you say, I was praising him even when it was not going right. That's the surrender part.
Yep. And it brings you peace that surpasses all understanding. You don't get it, but you're seeing it every single day. I made an intentional point to be present with my girls as much as I could, even going through chemo. Every single day, even when I had to move out of my marital home, going through that crazy, horrible mess of a divorce and going through radiation every single day, having to come home and be mom, single parent now. My mom, she came and lived with me, praise God. My aunt stayed for many months to try to get me together and my mom. It was hard, but every single day we laughed. Every single day I intentionally laughed, whether I felt like it or not, I tried to laugh. And I was playing gospel music. To this day, I hope Marvin Sapp one day will see this. Please, my daughter was singing Perfect Peace at 3, 4, 5, 6. Every single night we would sing that. We would play it while she slept. And It was, we woke up to it. We went to sleep with it, woke up to it, and continued through the day. We had that perfect peace. I would keep you in perfect peace. And that is all I can say. It is something to this day. My 5-year-old now, my daughter who was 10 months going through that with me, she now be like, Mom, I remember this song. And I'm like, you do? She said, yeah, because every single day we praised God. And I do mean praised God. And that got me through with community. You know, I had people praying for me when I couldn't pray for myself, going through that divorce at the same time of my Lord. There is times where in the Bible it says, and I don't know the scripture, it says God hears our murmurs, our whimpers. We don't even have to voice it. God hears those, and that's all I can give him. And he got me through that. And so I'm constantly just at it, you know, self-care is hard. For all single mothers out there, it is hard. I do have support, but even still, it's not, you know, I can't afford a nanny and stuff, but it is hard, especially with this new body. There's many challenges that come. As you can see, I'm wearing a sleeve. I had a hand thing on because of lymphedema. Stuff change, and it's a new normal you have to figure out. And I feel like a community that understands and gets some things helps you to be like, man, you get it. You get it. You know, because sometimes I don't even have to say some things to fellow breast cancer women or cancer people, because it's like you click, you get it. And you know, it is one of these things of, you know, God is still leading me. I don't know what my path looks like. Only God does, but I'm hopeful. That's the first thing. And that's where the hope comes. And then the light, the Holy Spirit. Thank God for it. Because I know that he has a great work in store for me, because to be honest, I am not a public speaker. Being honest, my name is Nicole and I am not a public speaker. But God said, you know what? I'm going to use you to open your mouth.
Sound like Moses and Aaron, right?
And be out front. I'm going to push you out front.
Yeah.
And honestly, every tragedy is something to learn in it. And every testimony, you know, I constantly have been encouraged that share my testimony. Don't be scared of it. Don't be ashamed of it.
Right.
Share it. So if it helps somebody, God be the glory.
Amen. Amen. Listen, Nicole, Doc, Nicole, you have been so good. I thank you, listen, for sharing this information with us. And I know that those who have been online, the various platforms, and those who are going to share, please, you know, please post, you know, your site address, Tracy Williams. Thank you, Tracy. Saying that, you know, please post the site address. People want to be able to support you. If we can't post it, I'm going to ask you to state it.
Yeah.
And there it is, Dr. Nicole. You're doing well, public speaking, Nicole. Yeah, you're doing very well.
It's so kind.
Listen, adversity will make you, will teach you a few things, right? It sure will. Listen. The whole idea of public speaking is not public speaking. It's to speak to the public, right? Yes. And when you're speaking to the public, you're doing whatever you do, you know. So let me, you know, so you did an amazing job, very good job this evening. You spoke from your heart. You spoke from your experience. You weren't quoting a whole lot of people. You were talking about Nicole. You're talking about your experience, you know, on all those personal things and tragedies that you went through, and the closest of which is how Nicole feels about Nicole now.
Yes.
That's the issue, right? Because it's no longer about how you felt about yourself having breast cancer. It's how you feel about yourself now. That's where the mental health piece comes in. A healthy sense of self, you know, will do that. You know,
Yes.
You know, so you really want to be able to keep that good sense of self. Listen, uh okay, so your website, there it is, your website down the bottom.
Yes.
See, you see your website there.
I do.
All right.
It feels so good to see that. Honestly, like I said, it's in the making. I
Yeah,
am not
just
an
keep it there
IT
for a while.
person.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, I was just saying to keep it up there for a while. Yeah, we want people to
Oh
see
yes. I'm
that.
constantly getting the platforms together, to be honest.
Yeah.
I am so slow on the platforms. I need to do better. Duly noted with the platform situation. I'm being honest. I guess one thing for me is like I am authentic. Honestly,
Yeah.
you kind of see what you get to a
Yeah.
certain extent. Like I am pretty down to earth. At least I try to be, because that's just who I am. So when it comes to all the social media pages and stuff, I don't have all of them yet. I do have a YouTube too, which is Hope for Light Ministries.
Okay.
Um, and like you see, the website and also Facebook page. I'm working on my Instagram page. So definitely, it's a steady thing. The biggest thing, like I said, is just trying to bring community. So for me, the biggest takeaways of anything, like with Hope for Light, is um, faith, number one. You
Mm.
know, but hope and healing, community. Is so important, and we have to be kind to ourselves. So what you said is so important. Literally, be kind to ourselves, and that's something I
Hmm.
constantly
Hmm.
am trying to be intentional about, and I have to be intentional about, because my body's not how it used to be. Being honest, and I have
So,
to.
so
I
now you
have
get, so
to.
acceptance is the other thing. To accepting the change
Hmm.
as you are. And that's where
Exactly.
the grieving process comes into play. Uh,
Amen.
yeah, going through your
Amen.
grief, doing your grief work, it is so important. I heard, I one author said, you know, grieve everything. If it was important to you and it's no longer available, grieve it. Otherwise, it will create all kinds of difficulties for you down the road.
No, it
So,
is true. And my daughters, honestly, God knows what He does with bringing people in
mm,
your life. And I'll be quick. My girls really helped me to see me through every stage of my journey. The first thing they would say, I lost all my hair. Mom, that was my oldest at the time, of course. Mom, you're beautiful.
oh, really?
When after my double mastectomy, I was trying to hide it from her. She said she forced her way in the room, one. And she looked at me, she licked her lollipop, left back out, and later she said, Mommy, I love you. You're beautiful. Even now to this day, when I didn't have any hair, my hair was growing back and looked like a chicken. I'm telling you, I look like a little baby chick. It was something.
That's okay. That's
It
okay.
is what it
That's
is. But it
okay.
was
That's
so
okay.
funny to me, because I'm like, Lord, what do I do with this? I still like, what do I do with this? But my daughters say, Mom, you're beautiful. So it's just seeing that light. God gives it to us, and it is so powerful. So you're right. You got to connect. Yeah, it's the connection that counts.
It
Absolutely.
is. It is.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you,
It,
Tracy, for that. Thank you so much. Oh, well, Doc, listen. I know you just came home.
yeah.
You spent all this time here. You got to be tired. You got to be hungry. You got to be all of that. You got some daughters going, "Where mommy at?
Yeah.
Where mommy?"
They're being good.
Oh, but listen, I just want to thank you so much, and of course we're going to be in touch so that hope for a lot.
Mhm.
See, how I can I can be any kind of a help to you on that, and
Yeah, absolutely.
and I'm just encouraging those of you that are watching, to contact her, at that Hope for Life. It's really
Yeah.
important that we do that. Okay, so Nicole, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, we will be talking some more. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, that's it, folks. Here you have it. My good friend, Dr. Nicole Edgell, was on with us this evening. And those of us who heard her stories are a powerful, moving, dynamic story from a dynamic woman of faith, very strong faith. She mentioned her faith so much. And so, God is with her, and he will continue to be with her and he did not give her a ministry just to cut her life short. So we're just saying, thank you, God, for using her and for her to be an instrument to work with you. And so we just want, and there are many of you out there, you know, who God just want to work with you, and God just want to use you because, like I keep saying, everybody who comes on the Shake Up got a story to tell, that God has given you a story to tell, your experience. So you just need to make sure that when God taps you on the shoulder and say, hey, I need you to go and do this, you say, Lord, I will, and I know you will help me. Okay. So, all right. Thank you so much. Listen, great show. So to be considered to be on a future show, please contact my office at Dr. Kid Speaks at gmail.com. Okay. And we will get you on. We want to hear your story, just like you heard your story this evening. Heard a story this evening. Very good story. Okay. So the Dr. Kid Speaks, gmail.com. And we'd like you to like, follow, share, and subscribe so that this show can continue to go far and near, wide and deep. We just want to get it out there so that the content will be good for the for the health of our community. All right. So thank you so much. Be good. May God bless you. And we see you next week. Same time, 6 p.m. Central Time, Monday. Have a good day, evening. Shake Up with Dr. Kid. Bye-bye.